everyone, and thank you for joining us on This Week in Milwaukee Rising with Technically. I'm Sorrina Beecher, the lead reporter for the region, and every week we feature an amazing individual or group that is shaping Milwaukee's economic landscape and highlighting solutions to help build a more equitable and inclusive future. This week, we're talking with John Knapp. He's the recently appointed executive director for Innovation Alley. It's a new program looking to connect and develop innovation leaders at Marquette University. And we're going to learn more about Knapp's new role and what future he envisions for the program, as well as how the initiative plans to engage local leaders outside of campus to accelerate impact. So welcome, John. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yep, happy to be here. Look forward to chatting.
And John, you were recently appointed executive director as of when?
Technically May 1st was my...
Okay, so very relatively new.
Yeah.
So why don't we just jump right in? Tell us a little bit about Innovation Alley and some of the goals you guys are hoping to achieve.
Sure. The main question I get most of the time is, what is Innovation Alley? So it's a good question to start with. Innovation Alley in particular really is a partnership between the College of Business here at Marquette University and the College of Engineering to really think about how we can develop new programming and collaborative experiences for both our students and for companies and external organizations in the region. So traditionally, a lot of times these colleges live in their own kind of disciplinary space, engineering, business. We know out in the real world, that's not really how innovation happens. And it's also not how our students are going to work and live when they enter their careers. So at its core, Innovation Alley really is about rethinking how we develop programming and opportunities that are new and novel for our students and for corporate partners.
Sure. And I understand, just as you touched on, this isn't just limited to students. This is actually a program that could potentially touch, other partners within the region. Can you talk a little bit about how you guys plan to do that?
Yeah. So, what we're trying to think about, outside of just how to create high quality learning experiences for the students, how to train innovation leadership and these things, which I think we'll probably get to in some other questions, is how do we better bring outside organizations closer to Marquette? We have incredible talent here. We were ranked by the Princeton Review recently as one of the ROI institutions in the country where you get your return on investment. In Wisconsin, we're the #1 institution for employment after graduation. We're, I believe, number 12 in the country. So we have this incredible talent here at Marquette. And so what we want to do is think of ways that we can better work closely with industry. So, currently in its current iteration, we have a couple things we've been working on. Probably one of the first is what we're calling Igniting Insights, which is an innovation leadership development series. And that actually is a program that connects with what we call rising professionals, talent that's outside in industry that needs to basically, it's groups that are thinking about, how do I lead innovation within my current work structure? So that's one program. Another program we're working on is called M-Teams. What that would be is a multidisciplinary team of students really tackling a problem or a challenge that comes from industry. So those are two examples of programs. But Innovation Alley is going to grow over time. And we think really what we want to see is connectivity and dialogue as well. So we want to bring the tech ecosystem, the innovation ecosystem a little bit closer to Marquette, a little bit closer to our students. And we kind of want to see that bi-directional relationship grow and evolve over time. So the sky's the limit in terms of what we're thinking about how we're going to engage with our partners.
Sure. Do you guys have an idea of what kind of organizations you're looking to engage?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I don't think a type is really like, I'm not going to say, well, it's only manufacturing or it's only technology. It's really, connecting the ecosystem and creating value for those that, are involved. So we have a rich history of manufacturing here in Wisconsin. So although technology and innovation, is really important when we think about innovation and those types of things, like there's a lot of innovation that can occur within the industries that have a long history here and are already, connected to this region and to Marquette University. Specifically, you think about, the manufacturing industry, which, has been around and is still very strong, and they need innovation just as much as any other company does currently. So I guess, what we're looking to do is connect with organizations that really want to think about how we can work together differently and kind of connect young talent and faculty and all these different entities to, this ecosystem that's really evolving here.
Sure. And can you tell us a little bit, if you have insight into some of those early conversations around launching Innovation Alley?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Innovation Alley, I have to give a lot of credit to Dean Chris Rapella. She's the dean of the engineering school here. I think early on, as far back as 2015, she really started thinking about how do we educate students in spaces that are more reflective of what they're going to see in industry, and how do we think about creating spaces on campus where business students, engineering students, companies can all come together and collaborate and have shared working spaces and laboratories. So at first, Innovation Alley was really a physical manifestation. Mm-hmm. The idea was to have a facility that would actually foster this. A university like Marquette is a complex environment and things are changing constantly. And so we kind of shifted away from the idea of a building, but really this idea of developing programming with innovation at its heart, with multidisciplinary collaboration at its heart, never went away. And so, that's how, so Innovation Alley really as a term was, developed through this idea of a physical facility that would connect, but now we've kept the term and we've moved more into this conceptual space of designing the programming that's ultimately going to foster these types of connections and collaborations.
Yeah. I know you mentioned a little bit about igniting insights and that leadership series. Who can participate in the program? What would they be looking to get out of the program?
Yeah, so, I think to understand the program, it's important first to kind of understand, how we see innovation here at Marquette. And although technology and processes are important and certainly can drive some of these things, at the end of the day, innovation is really about people. And it's people that innovate. You can have the best invention in the world, but if you can't apply that invention to a problem, to solve something, to create value, it's just an invention. It's not an innovation. And the reality is we live in business environments that are highly managed. And that's because we like to see predictable outcomes and we like to control risk. Those aren't the environments where innovation can thrive. And so innovation is very much about people and it's about leadership. And so Igniting Insights is actually a 7-week professional program we developed to help take what we called rising talent. So individuals that are either going to be in charge of teams, maybe they're taking that step in their career, or maybe they already are, but really individuals that want to develop those skills and understand how their leadership can cultivate those types of cultures within an organization where you can kind of go beyond just, okay, we met our objective. No, we want to talk about like discovery-driven problem solving. And so it's a 7-week program. Honestly, we ran our pilot. It was really successful, very diverse group of participants. And that's race, ethnicity, age, gender, profession, and we brought them together and it was really successful. So really the program is intended, anyone could benefit from this program, and so we're going to be offering another cohort in the fall. We're a little bit limited on how many seats we can kind of put out there at this time, but I think the program honestly is valuable for anyone that feels, anyone that believes that they have to kind of go beyond just meeting their goals and that business and industry needs to be able to evolve and change, as the world around us changes.
Absolutely. And that demand definitely is shifting. And I know, in speaking to a lot of people in our tech landscape that, trying to kind of break through with all of our wonderful tech, in our manufacturing industries, in our brewing industries, that sort of traditional Rust Belt industry, that we have this sort of conservative level of comfort. And for us to really break through, innovation is definitely something that we need to get comfortable with, right? That risk.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can't be afraid to fail, because if you're not failing, you're not learning. And if you're not learning, you're not doing something new. So it's very connected, all of it.
For sure. I'm curious to know what piqued your interest in this role. I know you were with Marquette University beforehand. Can you tell us a little bit how you took your previous role and transitioned into your new role as executive director?
Yeah. So, I'm one of those people that I'm very lucky that I get to do what I love every day. And, I'm very much, I came up through higher education administration. And I think for some people, they go, well, how does that connect to innovation? And, how does that connect to technology and all those things?
Sure.
I worked at Lakeland University, which is up in Sheboygan, for about 6 or 7 years. And I got to work underneath president at the time, Dr. David Black, who had this really innovative idea of what if we helped create a co-op program that any student in any major could take at Lakeland. Such an idea does not seem like earth-shaking, but when you're a 150 plus year old liberal arts institution, this was kind of a wild evolution of what they were trying to do. And I think that was kind of my first exposure to innovation in higher education, was to see that organization going through that type of change. And honestly, reflecting back on it now, I can see very clearly how much the leadership and the innovation mindset was important. So to get back to your question, what piqued my interest? I've worked in a variety of roles in higher ed. I've worked in student affairs and eventually landed in this kind of new initiative space. Came to Marquette and was working very closely with acting dean Tim Hanley. I think my approach to my work has always been one of how do we do what we're doing and we do it better and more effective and innovate. And so I think oftentimes people don't think of innovation in higher education, as kind of being so connected, but people would say, we're in a time of disruption in higher ed. And I don't know if I agree with that. I think we're in a time of forced evolution. And so what really piqued my interest, about this role was the opportunity to create something new, to kind of push the boundaries of how we think about what the classroom is and how we educate people. All of this relates back to things I'm passionate about, like how education can change lives, and so all of this for me is, so this was just a great opportunity to step into a new space and work with great colleagues here at Marquette to advance the way we practice what we do.
That's great. I understand too that you guys are working on, really building out this strategic vision for the program. Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like for you? Like, what is the grand vision, as I always call it?
Yeah, the grand vision. Well, part of this is we don't want to over restrict it. And part of that is because we want to be able to be innovative as well. So I will just say that the way we've been thinking about it is, where are the vectors or the opportunities to create value for our stakeholders? And that's going to be your students, it's going to be your faculty and your staff, and that's going to be our partners, companies, organizations, government. So the grand vision, ultimately is going to be that Innovation Alley has a suite of programming that are bringing all of these entities together, that are creating connectivity between the university, our talent, and the tech and innovation ecosystem, and really building up the dialogue around innovation and technology here in our region. And a big piece of Innovation Alley is going to be us continuing this innovation leadership development work. This is really, really important. So it's hard to answer the grand vision, of where we're going to be, because I think we want to let it somewhat grow naturally. We want to test some things, we want to learn some things, and I just keep, I've said to others, at the end of the day, Innovation Alley is going to help Marquette be recognized as an innovative university, but I want it to create value for our region, and I think that's going to come through this connectivity and through really thinking differently about how we connect what we have here at Marquette with what's going on around us in the city and in the larger area.
Yeah, and that actually brings me to my next question is, what makes Milwaukee a good region to launch an initiative like this? What kind of potential do you see in our landscape here?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential here in Milwaukee. I kind of nodded to this, but we have this rich history of innovation, actually. And people may not think that, but what was going on in Milwaukee, the turn of the century with our manufacturing here, I mean, we were changing the world with how we do things here. And so I don't think innovation, it's about startups, and it's about technology, but those are also just components of the larger landscape. So Milwaukee, if you think about it, we have a rich mix of small businesses, large businesses, higher education institutions. We have an evolving ecosystem here in Milwaukee that's really starting to grow in regards to innovation and technology. And so I think the challenge, which is also the opportunity, is continuing to connect these dots so that we're all working together. And I think we're getting there. And I think good evidence of that is actually there's been a lot of growing investment of capital in Milwaukee. There's more VCs interested in the area. We know that they're coming in. There's great organizations like the Milwaukee Tech Hub Coalition. I know the M7's doing great work in development, and we have seen some technology companies coming here and locating. And then the only other thing I'll say along this point is we're seeing people leave the coasts. There's something about the Midwest that's attracting people. The quality of life here is really good. And, if talent's coming here, companies are going to come here too. So I think we have strong momentum, and really the challenge just continues to connect our dots and work more closely together.
Sure. I know it's always hard for my sources to talk a little bit about themselves. They're so humble. But what is it about you, your personality, your background that kind of you think led you to this role?
Oh man, I could give you the long answer or the shorter one, but to be very honest, because I'm really passionate about this. The first thing was that my father's a minister and my mom's an educator, and most of my family is educators. And college wasn't really something I ever struggled with. I was going to go to school. That was that, and I was really lucky. I got to go to a great institution, and I never heard my parents once mention paying for it or any of that. Right? It was this easy thing, and I can tell you how much I grew and I developed because of that. And so, when I made the decision to enter higher ed, it's because I really feel education can make a huge impact, in society. And we know it does economically and all those things. But then as I was in the field working more and meeting more students, I came to really acknowledge that my higher education experience was not your typical experience. I mean, there's people that dread going to college, and there's people that go to college and they're scared they're not going to succeed. And so the reason I'm telling you all this is that I became very, very passionate about the fact that everyone deserves an education that leaves them better off and leaves them with more opportunity. And I think a school like Marquette does an amazing job at that. But if you look at the broader higher education system in the United States, you'll see that we don't do the best actually in our 6-year graduation rate. There's populations of students that enter school and never finish. And so all of that drove me to become very interested in learning everything I could about higher education. And so actually I'm finishing a PhD. My research is on college student sense of belonging. And I think, so I guess what I'm trying to get at is this personal passion of mine and this somewhat academic passion of mine, and I get to practice it every day in the same time, and so all of that, I think, drove me to always be willing to engage and learn more. And I think when you do something because you genuinely are passionate about it and you care about it, it will create opportunity for you, so I'm very humbled to be in this role. Very humbled to continue with Marquette. I really cherish this institution. I think they do a great job. And so that's just a little bit of, I guess my evolution into this role. I did financial aid, I did admissions, I've touched many different spaces in higher ed, and as my career's moved on, I've had some great leaders to work underneath and to learn from. So
Sure. And, for some of our viewers, if you're not aware, if you're on the East Coast, maybe you don't know Marquette as well. It is, a Jesuit institution. And I know that, those values are also sort of incorporated in this, bringing that sense of belonging and continuing Marquette's mission. What can other cities learn or take away from a program like this?
Yeah, I think, we're really early on and there's a lot of work to be done, obviously. But what I would hope to see is in a year, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, people will look at the connectivity we've created, the programming we've created, and cities will realize that, it's up to us to work together to solve these problems. And when I say us, I mean it's private corporations, it's higher education, it's government, it's not for profit. And sometimes we become siloed and we don't quite work together as well as we can. And sometimes that's just because of the way we do business, right? Higher education oftentimes is a little bit reactive. It's not quite as proactive. So what we're going to try to do is establish a norm here where it's really easy to do business and work with us, and I think that's what I want cities to take away. If they look to our region a couple of years from now, they're going to say, wow, those schools, those companies, those economic development, they all came together and they really built the ecosystem that's fostered that type of development,
Well, we can't wait to see it. We'll definitely be watching. John, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I appreciate your time. And I appreciate your insight into this new program. I am going to drop the website down here. You can learn more at marquette.edu/innovation alley. But the conversation does not have to end here. So we will be posting a recap of our conversation with John on the Technically website, and we'll be sharing his story in this week's weekly newsletter. So to subscribe, you simply follow the link below and check us out. And again, John, thank you so much for your time, and I wish you guys all the best of luck as you innovate within Innovation Alley.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. And hopefully we can have another touch point later on and talk about all the great things going on.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Until next time, I'll see you soon.